From over 1 million seniors who turn 80 every year, 98% enter 5 biological changes that quietly shape the last chapter of their life. Not because they're weak, not because they failed to take care of themselves, but because the human body begins a hidden transformation, one that is more dangerous, more aggressive, and more life-altering than anyone expects. These changes don't whisper, they wait. They wait for the perfect moment to strike, and then they accelerate. A little slower walking, a little more forgetting, a little less balance, and then suddenly it's not a little anymore. It's real. It's noticeable. It's frightening. Muscles don't shrink. They decay. Memory doesn't fade. It disconnects, like lights going out room by room. Balance doesn't wobble. It collapses without warning. Recovery takes longer, exhaustion comes faster, injuries heal slowly, independence slips quietly through the cracks. And what terrifies researchers most is this: these 5 shifts begin before you feel them. The decline isn't visible at first, and once symptoms appear, the damage is already deep. In this video, we will reveal the 5 changes that begin after age 80 and how to slow them immediately. And stick around, because number 1 is the most dangerous of them all, and research shows slowing it alone can delay visible decline by nearly 47%. Reference sources and scientific details are listed in the description. Read them anytime for deeper understanding. Before we dive in, here's a quick question for you. How old are you right now, and do you feel younger or older than your age? Tell me below, and yes, we're reading and replying to every single comment, so don't hold back. Your answer might help someone your age feel less alone. Now, without any further ado, let's begin, and number 5 will shock you, because almost no one realizes it starts years before the first symptom ever appears. Number 5. Your skin becomes dramatically more vulnerable to injury and infection. When you reach your 80s, your skin undergoes a transformation that goes far beyond simple wrinkles or age spots, and understanding this change could literally save your life, because skin injuries in this age group are one of the leading causes of serious medical complications. Your skin has 3 main layers, and by 80, every single one of them has changed in significant ways. The epidermis, which is your outermost protective layer, becomes much thinner, sometimes losing up to 20% of its thickness compared to when you were younger. This means the barrier between your blood and the outside world is considerably weaker. At the same time, the dermis beneath it, which contains all those important collagen and elastin fibers that give skin its strength and bounce, has lost a substantial amount of its structural proteins. Research published in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology found that collagen production decreases by roughly 1% every year after age 20, which means by 80 you have lost more than half of the collagen you had as a young adult. But the change that causes the most problems is happening in the tiny blood vessels that feed your skin, and this is something most people never think about. These capillaries become fragile and sparse, which means your skin does not receive the same nutrient and oxygen supply it once did, and when you get a cut or scrape, your body cannot rush healing factors to the site as efficiently. What this means practically is that a minor bump against a table corner that would have caused nothing more than a brief red mark when you were 50 can now create a significant bruise or even tear the skin completely. The medical term for this paper-thin, easily damaged skin is dermatoporosis, and it affects the majority of people over 80 to some degree. The good news is that you can actively protect and even partially restore your skin's resilience with specific approaches that research has validated. First and most importantly, hydration from the inside matters more now than at any other point in your life, and studies show that older adults who maintain optimal hydration have measurably thicker, more resilient skin. This means drinking water consistently throughout the day rather than just when you feel thirsty, because the thirst mechanism becomes less reliable with age. From the outside, using moisturizers that contain ceramides and hyaluronic acid can help restore some of the barrier function your skin has lost, and dermatologists recommend applying these immediately after bathing when skin is still slightly damp to lock in moisture. Protecting your skin from further sun damage remains crucial even at 80 because ultraviolet radiation continues to break down collagen and weaken already vulnerable tissue. Perhaps most importantly, be proactive about patting sharp corners in your home and wearing long sleeves when doing activities that might cause bumps or scrapes, because preventing injuries is far easier than healing them at this stage of life. The next change affects something you use every single moment of every day, and it might be quietly stealing one of your most precious connections to the world. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe with the bell on, because what's coming next could save your health. Number 4. Your sensory systems experience accelerated decline that affects more than you realize. After 80, your senses do not just gradually fade, but rather enter a phase of accelerated change that impacts far more than simply needing stronger glasses or turning up the television volume, and failing to address these shifts can have devastating consequences for your brain health, your social connections, and even your physical safety. Let us start with hearing because this is where some of the most surprising research has emerged in recent years. A major study from Johns Hopkins University tracked thousands of older adults and found something that changed how doctors think about hearing loss entirely. They discovered that people with untreated hearing loss experienced cognitive decline up to 40% faster than those with normal hearing or those who used hearing aids. The reason for this is that your brain has to work incredibly hard to fill in the gaps when hearing is impaired, which takes resources away from other cognitive functions like memory and processing speed. Additionally, when you cannot hear well, you naturally withdraw from conversations and social situations, and this isolation itself accelerates brain aging. By 80, approximately 2/3 of adults have significant hearing loss, but fewer than 30% of those who could benefit from hearing aids actually use them, often because of outdated stigma or concerns about appearance. Vision changes after 80 go beyond simple prescription adjustments and enter territory that requires active management. Your pupils become smaller and less responsive to changes in light, which means you need significantly more illumination to see clearly but also become more sensitive to glare. The lens of your eye continues to yellow and thicken, affecting how you perceive colors and reducing the amount of light reaching your retina. Perhaps most concerning is that age-related macular degeneration, cataracts, and glaucoma all become significantly more common and progress faster in your 80s, making regular comprehensive eye exams absolutely essential rather than optional. Your sense of smell and taste, which seem less important, actually play a crucial role in nutrition and safety because when food does not taste appealing, you eat less and may become malnourished. And a diminished sense of smell means you might not detect smoke, gas leaks, or spoiled food. The path forward involves being proactive, rather than accepting these changes as inevitable parts of aging you cannot influence. Get a comprehensive hearing evaluation, and if aids are recommended, use them consistently because the brain benefits are enormous and modern devices are remarkably discreet. Ensure your home is extremely well lit, especially in transitional areas like stairs and hallways, and consider adding night lights in bathrooms and bedrooms to prevent falls during nighttime trips. Have your eyes examined at least annually and more frequently if you notice any changes in vision, and discuss any warning signs like floaters, flashes, or dark spots with your doctor immediately. To help maintain your sense of taste and smell, challenge these systems regularly with varied, strongly flavored foods and aromatic spices. And if you notice a sudden change in either sense, see your doctor because it can sometimes indicate other health issues. What comes next might explain why some 80-year-olds need help getting out of a chair while others are still playing golf, and the difference comes down to one specific change happening inside every muscle in your body. Number 3, your muscles enter a critical window of accelerated loss that determines your independence. The third major change that accelerates after 80 involves your muscular system, and I cannot overstate how important this is because research consistently shows that muscle mass and strength after 80 are among the strongest predictors of whether someone will maintain their independence or require assisted living, and the window to act becomes much narrower than most people realize. The medical term for age-related muscle loss is sarcopenia, and while it begins as early as your 30s, something dramatic happens around 80 that scientists are still working to fully understand. Studies published in the Journal of Gerontology show that muscle mass can decline by as much as 3% per year after 80, compared to roughly 1% per year in your 60s and 70s. Even more concerning is that muscle strength declines even faster than muscle size, often at double the rate, because the nervous system connections to muscle fibers also deteriorate. What this means practically is that someone who is managing fine at 79 might find themselves struggling with everyday activities like carrying groceries, climbing stairs, or even rising from a chair just a few years later, and this decline can feel sudden even though it has been building. Understanding why this happens can help you fight back effectively. Your muscles rely on protein to maintain and rebuild themselves, but after 80 your body becomes less efficient at using the protein you eat. This phenomenon, called anabolic resistance, means you actually need more protein than a younger person to maintain the same muscle mass, not less as many people assume. Additionally, levels of hormones that support muscle maintenance like testosterone and growth hormone continue to decline, and chronic inflammation, which tends to increase with age, actively breaks down muscle tissue. The type of muscle fibers you lose also matters tremendously. Fast twitch muscle fibers, which are responsible for quick, powerful movements like catching yourself when you stumble, decline faster than slow twitch fibers, which explains why reaction time and power decrease more noticeably than endurance. The strategy to combat this muscle decline requires a two-pronged approach of nutrition and exercise that specifically addresses the unique challenges after 80. Regarding protein, research indicates that people over 80 should consume between 1.0 and 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, which is significantly higher than the general adult recommendation. This protein should be distributed across all meals rather than concentrated at dinner because your muscles can only use so much protein at once, and having 25 to 30 grams at each meal optimizes muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. The type of protein matters too, with leucine-rich sources like eggs, dairy, and fish being particularly effective at triggering muscle building in older bodies. For exercise, resistance training is not just beneficial, but essentially mandatory for maintaining muscle after 80, and multiple studies have shown that even people in their 90s can significantly increase muscle mass and strength with appropriate strength training programs. Start with whatever you can manage safely, whether that is body weight exercises, resistance bands, or light weights, and gradually progress. The key is consistency and progressively challenging your muscles because they need a reason to maintain their mass. Balance exercises should also be incorporated because even if you have strong muscles, poor balance can still lead to falls. The next change happening in your body is invisible, but affects every single system we have discussed so far, and doctors now believe it might be the master switch that controls how fast you age overall. Number 2. Your metabolic and immune systems shift into a pro-inflammatory state that accelerates every other aging process. When you cross into your 80s, something fundamental changes in how your body manages inflammation, and this shift is so significant that many researchers now believe it underlies virtually every age-related disease and decline, making it perhaps the most important biological change you have never heard of. The term scientists use for this phenomenon is inflammaging, which describes a state of chronic, low-grade inflammation that becomes increasingly common and severe as we age, with 80 representing a critical inflection point where this inflammatory burden often increases substantially. Here is what makes this so important to understand. Inflammation is normally your body's healing response, a short-term reaction that fights infections and repairs damage. But after 80, your immune system often becomes dysregulated, producing inflammatory signals even when there is no acute threat, and these constant inflammatory molecules circulate through your blood, affecting every organ and tissue. Research published in leading journals like Nature and Cell has demonstrated that this chronic inflammation contributes to heart disease, cognitive decline, muscle loss, slower wound healing, and even depression. It is like your body's alarm system starts going off constantly, and this continuous state of alert exhausts your systems and causes collateral damage to healthy tissues. Several factors converge to create this inflammatory state after 80. Your immune cells become senescent, meaning they stop dividing but do not die, and instead they sit in your tissues pumping out inflammatory molecules. Your gut microbiome, which plays a crucial role in regulating inflammation, often becomes less diverse with age, losing beneficial bacteria that help keep inflammation in check. Fat tissue, particularly the visceral fat around your organs, produces inflammatory compounds, and changes in body composition that favor fat over muscle mean more of these compounds circulating. Sleep disturbances, which become increasingly common in the 80s, further drive inflammation because quality sleep is when your body performs much of its anti-inflammatory housekeeping. Even chronic stress and social isolation, which affect many people in this age group, have been shown to increase inflammatory markers. Fighting inflammation requires a comprehensive approach that addresses multiple contributing factors simultaneously. Diet is one of your most powerful tools, and the research strongly supports eating patterns that emphasize vegetables, fruits, fatty fish, nuts, and olive oil while minimizing processed foods, added sugars, and excessive red meat. Specific foods like fatty fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids, berries high in polyphenols, leafy greens packed with antioxidants, and turmeric with its anti-inflammatory curcumin have been shown to measurably reduce inflammatory markers in clinical studies. Maintaining a healthy weight, particularly reducing visceral fat, directly lowers the inflammatory burden on your body. Regular physical activity, which we discussed for muscle preservation, also has powerful anti-inflammatory effects, with research showing that consistent moderate exercise reduces inflammatory markers even in people over 80. Prioritizing sleep becomes even more important now, and strategies like maintaining consistent sleep and wake times, limiting caffeine after noon, keeping your bedroom cool and dark, and addressing any breathing issues like sleep apnea can improve both sleep quality and inflammation levels. Social connection and stress management also matter, as studies show that people with strong social networks and healthy stress coping mechanisms have lower inflammatory markers. Some doctors are now checking inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein in their older patients and using the results to guide personalized recommendations. Now we arrive at the most important change on this list, and what you are about to learn explains why researchers from completely different medical specialties are now collaborating because they discovered that what happens in your heart and what happens in your brain after 80 are far more interconnected than anyone previously understood. Number 1. Your brain and cardiovascular system become critically interdependent, and protecting one means protecting both. The number one change that occurs after 80 is the dramatic increase in the connection between your heart health and your brain health. And understanding this relationship is absolutely crucial because doctors now know that cognitive decline after 80 is not just about your brain, but is profoundly affected by what is happening in your cardiovascular system, and vice versa. For decades, cardiologists focused on hearts and neurologists focused on brains as if they were separate systems. But groundbreaking research over the past 15 years has completely changed this understanding. A landmark study published in The Lancet in 2020 examining global dementia prevention concluded that cardiovascular risk factors account for approximately 35% of dementia cases, making them the largest modifiable contributor to cognitive decline by far. Your brain, despite being only about 2% of your body weight, receives approximately 20% of your blood supply because neurons are incredibly demanding of oxygen and nutrients. After 80, atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, and reduced cardiac output can significantly compromise this blood flow, and even small reductions have outsized effects on brain function. What happens specifically is that the small blood vessels in your brain become damaged by decades of blood pressure fluctuations, blood sugar spikes, and inflammatory damage. These small vessel changes lead to tiny areas of reduced blood flow or small strokes, many of which are so small you would never notice them individually, but which accumulate over time. Research using advanced brain imaging has shown that almost all people over 80 have some degree of this small vessel disease, but the severity varies enormously depending on lifetime cardiovascular risk factor management. Additionally, reduced heart function means less blood pumped with each beat, and some studies suggest that even high normal blood pressure in older adults may not be enough to adequately perfuse the brain, which is why blood pressure management in the 80s has become more nuanced than simply lowering numbers. At the same time, brain changes affect cardiovascular health because the brain controls blood pressure regulation, heart rate, and the stress response, creating a bidirectional relationship where decline in one system accelerates decline in the other. The strategy for protecting this brain-heart connection requires addressing both systems simultaneously with an integrated approach. Blood pressure management after 80 requires personalized goals developed with your doctor because the optimal targets may differ from those for younger adults, with some research suggesting that excessively low blood pressure in the very old can actually reduce brain blood flow and worsen cognition. Work with your healthcare provider to find the blood pressure range that optimizes your brain perfusion while protecting your heart and kidneys. Blood sugar control is equally critical because elevated glucose damages small blood vessels throughout the body, including in the brain, and even prediabetes has been linked to accelerated cognitive decline. Managing cholesterol, particularly LDL cholesterol, reduces the atherosclerotic plaque buildup that can block both large and small vessels feeding your brain. Physical activity provides dual benefits, strengthening your heart while increasing blood flow to the brain and stimulating the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially fertilizer for your neurons that promotes the growth of new connections. Aerobic exercise that elevates your heart rate has been shown in multiple studies to actually increase the size of the hippocampus, the brain region critical for memory, even in older adults. Your body is going through these 5 significant changes, but armed with this knowledge, you can take meaningful steps to slow each one and maintain your health, independence, and vitality for years to come. The science is clear that what you do after learning this information matters enormously. If you found this video helpful and want to see more content about protecting your health as you age, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you do not miss future videos. Your support means everything to this channel and helps us continue bringing you research-backed information that can genuinely improve your quality of life. Take care of yourself, implement what you have learned today, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.